You know that medieval falconry wasn't practiced with just any bird of prey? Specific falcons and hawks were chosen for their hunting prowess and suitability for different environments. The choice of bird wasn't based only on its ability to catch prey or whether you were hunting in open fields or woods. In the rigidly hierarchical society of the Middle Ages, the type of bird you flew spoke volumes about your place in society, a visible indicator of your rank and status. There was, in essence, a widely recognized, though perhaps not always strictly enforced everywhere, hierarchy of birds linked to social status. The principle was clear: the higher your rank in the feudal system, the more prestigious, rare, powerful, and often difficult to acquire bird you were considered entitled to fly. This wasn't just informal custom, it was often codified in hunting treatises and social norms. The top ranks, emperors and kings, were associated with the grandest, most powerful birds. The mighty gerfalcon, a large, rare falcon from the Arctic regions, was often considered a bird for kings due to its power, beauty, especially white variants, and the difficulty of acquiring it from distant lands. Some sources even list eagles or vultures, though the practical hunting use of trained vultures by nobles is debated for the highest rulers, symbolizing ultimate power. Moving down the social ladder, the specific falcons and hawks were assigned to different levels of nobility. Princes and dukes might fly the tiercel gentle, the male peregrine falcon, slightly smaller and less powerful than the female. The falcon gentle, earls were associated with the female peregrine falcon, renowned for its speed and high stoop. Barons might fly the lanner falcon, knights, saker falcons. As you descended into the lower ranks of the gentry, the birds shifted towards hawks, generally considered less prestigious than falcons in this hierarchy, but still requiring immense skill. An esquire might fly the versatile goshawk, known for its powerful pursuit in woodlands. A gentleman might fly the smaller, agile sparrowhawk. Even certain ranks within the clergy were sometimes assigned birds. A priest or holy water clerk might be listed as flying a merlin, a small falcon, or a sparrowhawk, acknowledging their place in the social structure, albeit with a less powerful or prestigious bird than secular lords. Note: the specific list and associated ranks could vary slightly between different historical sources and regions, but the underlying principle of a hierarchy remained consistent. This hierarchy reflected several factors beyond just hunting ability. It was about the bird's perceived nobility. Falcons were often seen as more noble or spirited flyers. Its power, its rarity, birds imported from distant lands like the Arctic gerfalcon or the Mediterranean lanner, were more prestigious than locally available ones. And the time, expense, and skill required to acquire, often captured from the wild and train it. Owning and flying a bird appropriate to your rank was not just a matter of sport. It was an essential part of displaying your social status and adhering to the complex etiquette of the medieval court and countryside. Flying the wrong bird, a bird considered too high for your station, or perhaps even one considered too low, implying you couldn't handle or afford a more prestigious one, could be a social misstep, a subtle or not so subtle breach of etiquette. Imagine the scene at a medieval hunt, a group of nobles riding out, each with a different bird on their fist. The variety of falcons and hawks on display immediately announcing the relative ranks of the participants. A king with his majestic white gerfalcon, an earl with a fierce peregrine, an esquire with a powerful goshawk. The birds themselves were living symbols of the feudal system. Sensory details, the visual contrast of different-sized birds, different plumages, different types of bells, the feel of your bird's weight and grip compared to someone else's, the implied power held in the bird on someone's fist. A quirky tidbit illustrating the details of this hierarchy involves some unusual assignments in specific lists, or legends about rank breaking. While most lists focus on the noble birds, some historical sources for amusement or specific commentary might assign seemingly unsuitable birds to certain ranks, like a kestrel for a knave, or a bird not typically used in falconry. More interestingly, there are anecdotes, perhaps apocryphal, about individuals of lower status attempting to fly birds considered above their rank, potentially facing legal penalties or social ostracism, highlighting how seriously the hierarchy was taken. Imagine a wealthy commoner trying to show up to a hunt with a peregrine, only to be quietly or loudly ridiculed. There's joke number one. Oh, nice bird. Bartholomew. Very sparrowhawk of you. Just the right level of ambition for a gentleman. In medieval European society, there was a widely recognized and often formalized social hierarchy associated with different birds of prey used in falconry, with specific species of falcons like gerfalcons for royalty and peregrines for higher nobility, and hawks like goshawks and sparrowhawks for lower gentry being considered appropriate for individuals of particular ranks, serving as a clear and significant visual indicator of social status and privilege. This is our mainstream historical fact, confirming the existence and importance of this ranking system. Historians debate the rigidity and practical application of this medieval hierarchy, linking specific birds of prey to social ranks across different regions and periods of Europe. Was it a strictly enforced system with legal repercussions for non-adherence in all areas, or was it more of a general guideline, a set of social expectations and ideals that could be influenced by local availability of birds, personal preference, or noble specific hunting interests? This is our open scholarly debate phrase, questioning just how strictly the rules of the bird hierarchy were followed in practice. The hierarchy of birds made medieval falconry not just a sport, but a performance of social status. The type of bird you flew was a direct reflection of who you were in the feudal world. Joke number two. You look at your bird and sigh. Well, little sparrowhawk, looks like we're just gentlemen today. It added a layer of peculiar social complexity to the art, making the choice of which bird to train and carry a significant statement about your identity. Joke number three. You imagine a medieval dating profile. Seeking noble lady, must enjoy long rides in the country, witty banter, and appreciate a gentleman's skill with a sparrowhawk, no commoners with kestrels. Please. You've seen the incredible variety of birds used in medieval falconry, from majestic gerfalcons to agile sparrowhawks, and learned how the type of bird on your fist immediately signaled your place in society, from emperor down to esquire. But to handle, train, and hunt with these powerful, wild creatures, you needed more than just a bird and a desire for noble sport. A suite of specialized equipment was absolutely essential, designed to allow a degree of control and communication between the falconer and the bird. This gear wasn't just decorative. Each piece had a specific function vital to the safe and effective practice of falconry. Becoming a falconer meant acquiring these tools and understanding their proper use. First, and perhaps most iconic, is the glove. You felt it in Section 1, a thick, often heavy, leather glove worn on the fist. Its purpose is twofold primarily, to protect your hand and arm from the bird's incredibly sharp talons and strong grip, and secondarily, to provide a comfortable, familiar perch for the bird to sit upon, made from sturdy leather like cowhide, boarhide, or even horsehide. The glove was often reinforced in key areas. Sensory details the feel of the thick, stiff leather of a new glove, the way it molds to your hand with use, the feeling of protection it provides against sharp points. Attached to the bird's legs are jesses. These are short straps, typically made of soft but strong leather, fitted around each of the bird's legs specifically above the talons. They are perhaps the most crucial piece of equipment for maintaining physical control of the bird when it's not in free flight. The jesses allow you to hold the bird securely on your fist or attach a leash for further control. They need to be fitted carefully so they don't impede the bird's movement or cause injury. Sensory details the feel of the soft leather straps attached to the bird's legs, the connection they provide between your hand and the bird. A leash is attached to the jesses, or more commonly, to a swivel that connects the jesses to the leash. The swivel, a small metal joint, is important because it prevents the leash from twisting and tangling as the bird moves on the fist or perches. The leash itself is a longer line used to secure the bird to a perch when it's not on the fist. or to allow it limited flight during early training. It needs to be strong enough to hold the bird, but light enough not to impede it excessively. The hood is a close-fitting leather cap designed to cover the bird's eyes completely. Its primary purpose is to keep the bird calm by blocking its vision. Birds of prey are highly visually oriented. Removing visual stimuli reduces their stress and prevents them from being distracted by things they see in the environment, other people, animals, potential quarry when they are not intended to be hunting. Hoods were often beautifully crafted from fine leather, sometimes decorated, and had to fit perfectly. Snug enough to block light, but not so tight as to be uncomfortable or impede breathing. Sensory details the feel of soft, smooth leather of a good hood, the visual of a hooded bird, appearing calm and still, the distinct shape of the hood covering the bird's head. Bells were attached to the bird's legs, usually to the jesses using small leather straps called bewits. These weren't just decorative in the field if the bird was flying at some distance, or if it landed in cover where you couldn't see it. The sound of the bells allowed you to locate it by ear. Different sizes and numbers of bells might be used depending on the size of the bird and the type of hunting environment, chosen to provide a distinct sound that could be heard over wind or rustling leaves. Sensory details the distinct, rhythmic jingling sound of the bells as the bird moves, the sound varying with the bird's activity, the feel of the small metal bells. Finally, a crucial training tool is the lure. This is a simulated piece of prey, often made of leather or fabric, perhaps shaped like a bird or animal, and decorated with wings or feathers. Meat is attached to the lure during training. The lure is swung by the falconer and used to call the bird back, rewarding it with the meat once it lands on the lure. It's the central object in teaching the bird to return to the falconer's control after flight. Sensory details the visual of the lure swinging through the air, perhaps the smell of the meat attached to it. Medieval falconry required a specific set of specialized equipment, including a thick leather glove. Leather leg straps called jesses, typically connected to a leash via a swivel, a close-fitting hood to calm the bird by covering its eyes. Small bells attached to the legs, often with bewits for tracking, and a lure used for training and recall, all essential for the safe and effective management and hunting with birds of prey. This is our mainstream historical fact, listing the fundamental tools. A quirky tidbit about equipment involves the craftsmanship and occasional elaborate decoration. While basic gear was functional, equipment for noble falconers could be highly decorative, made from fine materials, perhaps embroidered leather hoods, silver or even gold bells, or lures made with precious fabrics and feathers. Imagine a hood so elaborately decorated it was a work of art itself, designed purely for status display when the bird wasn't hunting. There's joke number one. My hood isn't just for calming the bird, it's a statement piece. Notice the hand-stitched griffins. Historians debate the degree of standardization and regional variation in the design and materials of basic medieval falconry equipment across different parts of Europe. Were there widely accepted best practices for hood shape, jess length, or lure design that were consistent across different countries? Or did regional traditions, the availability of specific materials, or the personal preferences of individual falconers lead to significant variations in how this essential gear was made and used? This is our open scholarly debate phrase, examining how uniform or diverse the tools of the trade truly were. This specialized equipment transforms the relationship between human and bird from one of capture to one of partnership, based on control, trust, and reward. Joke number two, you adjust the bird's jesses. These little straps are basically our partnership agreement. Mastering the use and maintenance of this gear was as crucial as understanding the bird itself. Joke number three, you check the bells. Make sure these are jingling. Otherwise, how will I know if my very expensive hunting partner has wandered off? These tools were the physical embodiment of the falconer's art. You have your essential gear ready: the glove, jesses, hood, bells, lure, the tools of the trade, designed to help you manage and train a powerful bird of prey. But before you can even begin the process of training, you need the most important thing of all, the bird itself. And in medieval falconry, These magnificent hunting partners, whether a prestigious gerfalcon or a common sparrowhawk, were typically acquired directly from the wild, not bred in captivity in the same way as, say, hunting hounds or horses. Obtaining a bird from the wild involved specific methods and timing, and the age of the bird captured significantly impacted the taming and training process ahead. There were two main ways to acquire a bird for falconry in the Middle Ages. The first was by taking an eyas, sometimes spelled ayaz. An eyas is a young bird, typically taken from the nest eyrie before it is fully fledged and capable of flying, or shortly after it has left the nest but is still dependent on its parents and not yet a strong flyer. Taking an eyas usually happened in the spring or early summer when the birds were nesting. Finding an eyrie high on a cliff face or in a tall tree required skilled climbing and observation. Sensory details the visual of a nest high up, the sound of young birds cheeping, the feel of a small, downy bird in your hands, the distress cries of the parent birds nearby. The advantage of taking an eyas was that it was generally much easier to tame. Being so young, the bird would imprint on humans, becoming accustomed to human presence and handling relatively quickly. Training it to return to the falconer and accept being handled was less challenging than with an older bird. The disadvantage was that an eyas had little or no hunting experience in the wild. You had to teach it everything about hunting, building its skills from scratch, often starting with easier prey. The second method was by taking a haggard. A haggard is an adult bird of prey, fully mature and wild, which has already lived and hunted successfully in the wild for at least a year. Taking a haggard typically happened at other times of the year when birds were not nesting. Acquiring a haggard was a much more difficult undertaking, requiring skilled trapping methods to capture a wary, experienced wild hunter without injuring it. Various traps were used, including nets, spring traps, or even trained decoy birds. Sensory details the feel of setting a trap, the tension of waiting, the sound of a trap snapping shut, the feel of a strong, wild, struggling bird. The advantage of a haggard was that it was already a proven hunter. It knew how to spot, pursue, and catch prey in the wild. The immense challenge was in taming it, getting a fully wild adult bird accustomed to human presence. Handling hoods, jesses, and bells required immense patience, persistence, and skill. It was a longer, more difficult taming process than with a young eyas. Birds used for medieval falconry were predominantly acquired from the wild, with the two primary methods being the taking of young birds' eyases from the nest or as newly fledged youngsters, and the capture of adult, wild, experienced hunters, haggards using various trapping techniques. Each type required fundamentally different approaches to taming and subsequent training. This is our mainstream historical fact, outlining the acquisition methods. Taking birds from the wild was often subject to legal restrictions in medieval Europe, reflecting the bird's value and the desire of nobles to control access to falconry. Specific laws might govern who was allowed to take certain types of birds, where they could be taken from, and the methods used. This is a topic we'll delve into more in Section 11, but it's important to note that acquiring a bird wasn't just a matter of going out and catching one. It was often tied to social status and legal rights. A quirky tidbit about acquiring birds involves unusual beliefs or practices related to capture, or specific, sometimes strange, trapping methods described in medieval texts. Some methods involved lures with sticky substances to catch birds' feet, or traps designed to capture birds in flight using nets triggered by the falconer. There are even anecdotal accounts of trying to capture birds by using other, less valuable birds as live bait to lure the desired raptor into a trap. Imagine setting up a trap with a pigeon as bait, hoping to catch a peregrine. There's joke number one. Just setting out some snacks for my future hunting partner. Hope he likes a live delivery. Historians debate the relative prevalence of acquiring eyases versus haggards for medieval falconry. Was taking eyases from nests the more common practice due to the ease of taming and training, even if it meant starting from scratch on hunting skills? Or was the value of an already proven hunter and a haggard worth the extra effort in taming, making this a more sought-after method? especially for experienced falconers or specific high-status birds. This is our open scholarly debate phrase, trying to understand which method supplied most of the birds in medieval mews. Acquiring a bird was the essential first step in becoming a falconer. Requiring knowledge of the bird's breeding habits, their habitats, and specific capture techniques. Joke number 2. You return with a young IAS. Got one, he's small, but he's got spirit. And hopefully, trainable. It was the beginning of the partnership. A wild creature brought into the human world with the goal of transforming it into a skilled hunting companion through patient training. Starting with the process known as manning. Joke number 3. You look at your newly acquired wild bird. All right, little one. Time to learn that humans aren't all bad. Mostly. Yeah, you've successfully acquired your bird from the wild, whether a young IAS taken from the nest or a wily adult haggard captured in the field. The crucial first step in obtaining your hunting partner is complete. Now begins the long, patient, often exhausting, and absolutely essential process of taming this wild creature, getting it accustomed to the strange new world of humans, sounds, and environments it will inhabit. This initial stage is known as manning. Manning is the foundation of all future falconry training. Its purpose is to remove the bird's deep-seated fear of humans and the human world, to get it habituated to your presence, your touch, your voice, and the general sights and sounds of being around people. A bird that is afraid cannot be trained effectively to hunt in partnership with a human. The core process of manning is remarkably simple in concept. Though demanding in practice, you carry the bird on your gloved fist, constantly, for long periods, often throughout the day and into the night. You bring the bird into different environments, quiet rooms, busier areas, though carefully managed initially, perhaps near other people or animals, so it gets used to the variety of stimuli in the human world. Initially, like a wild bird, especially a haggard, will be highly agitated and fearful. It might struggle against the jesses. Try to fly off the fist, this is called baiting, or simply sit rigid with fear. The continuous presence of the falconer, the constant motion of being carried, and exposure to new but non-threatening stimuli helps to gradually reduce this fear. You talk to the bird in a low, calm voice, letting it get used to the sound. You might gently stroke its feathers once it begins to tolerate your presence. Sensory details the feel of the bird's weight and initial frantic struggling on your glove, the sharp grip of its talons, the sound of its wings flapping violently against the jesses when it baits, the calm, low sound of your own voice speaking to the bird, the various new sounds and smells the bird is exposed to as you carry it. Part of the traditional manning process, particularly with haggards, involved initially limiting the bird's sleep. By carrying the bird frequently, even at night, you prevented it from getting deep, restful sleep for a period. The idea was that a tired bird is less likely to struggle and more likely to focus on its new environment, gradually becoming habituated. This isn't about exhaustion as punishment, it's about breaking the cycle of fear and allowing the bird's natural instinct for self-preservation in a new environment to override its fear, making it more receptive to the new reality. The hood, which covers the bird's eyes, is often used in the very initial stages of manning, particularly when transporting the bird or exposing it to very stimulating environments, to help keep it calm by blocking visual input. But key to manning is also spending time with the hood off, allowing the bird to see its surroundings, and realize that these things are not a threat. This is done gradually, in controlled, quiet settings at first. Patience and gentleness are paramount throughout manning. You are trying to build a bond of trust, not simply break the bird's spirit through force. Any harshness or frightening experiences at this stage can make the bird permanently fearful or aggressive, ruining its potential as a hunting partner. It requires immense dedication, spending hours and hours simply being with the bird, letting it get used to you and its new life. The progression of manning is visible. Initially, the constant baiting and struggling. Then, the bird sits quietly, but still rigid and watchful. Gradually, it becomes more relaxed, looks around calmly, and eventually begins to show signs of comfort and acceptance on the glove. This transformation from a wild, fearful creature to a calm, accepting companion is the goal of manning. The time required for manning varies depending on the bird's age and individual personality. An IAS taken young might become manned relatively quickly, perhaps in a few days or a week. A wild-caught adult haggard might take significantly longer, sometimes several weeks of constant presence and patient handling, before it is comfortable and unafraid. The initial stage of taming a wild bird of prey in medieval falconry was known as manning, a rigorous and patient process typically involving carrying the bird on the falconer's gloved fist for extended periods throughout the day and night, often with intentionally limited initial sleep, to habituate the bird to human presence sounds and the human environment and remove its inherent fear. This is our mainstream historical fact, describing the core of the manning process. A quirky tidbit about manning involves specific, sometimes strange traditional techniques or beliefs associated with the process. Some historical texts mention specific types of music or sounds that were believed to help calm a bird during manning, or suggest specific patterns of walking or movement while carrying the bird. There are also anecdotes about particularly stubborn birds that resisted manning for unusually long periods, becoming legendary among falconers for their wildness. Imagine trying to man a hawk by constantly singing lullabies to it. There's joke number one. All right, little hawk, listen to this soothing chant. Don't bait. Don't bait, accept your fate. Historians debate the most crucial elements and the ethics of the medieval manning process. Was the emphasis primarily on the constant presence and patient handling by the falconer? Or was the intentional limitation of sleep seen as the truly effective technique for rapid habituation? Despite potential ethical concerns from a modern perspective, did the techniques vary significantly depending on the type of bird falcon versus hawk or the experience of the falconer? This is our open scholarly debate phrase, delving into what truly made manning effective in the eyes of medieval falconers. Manning is the fundamental patience testing stage that transforms a wild creature into a potential partner. It's where the bond begins to form, a connection based on the bird's acceptance of the human world and trust in the falconer. Joke number two, you feel the bird finally relax on your fist. We did it, we're officially uncomfortable acquaintances who spend a lot of time together. It is the essential prerequisite for all future training, taking the bird from a state of wildness to a state of readiness to learn the art of hunting with a human. Joke number three. You imagine explaining the process to someone? Yeah, I just hang out with a wild bird for days until it decides I'm less scary than everything else. It's a bonding experience. Yeah, I say, you've successfully manned your bird, patiently habituating it to your presence until it sits calmly on your glove. No longer struggling violently against the jesses, no longer consumed by fear of the human world. The first crucial stage of taming is complete. A bond, however rudimentary, is beginning to form. Now, the active training begins, teaching this powerful creature to hunt with you, not just for itself. And the first absolutely vital step in this process is teaching it to return to you reliably from flight. This is primarily achieved using the lure. The lure is one of the key pieces of falconry equipment we discussed, a simulated piece of prey, typically made from leather or fabric, often shaped roughly like a bird or animal, and usually decorated with wings or feathers from a bird, perhaps pigeon or chicken. Most importantly, during training, small pieces of fresh meat are attached to the lure. The purpose of lure training is fundamental. It teaches the bird to associate the lure, and by extension, the falconer who swings it with food and reward, and to come back to the falconer reliably whenever the lure is presented, even from a significant distance or altitude. It is the basis of recall, ensuring that when the bird is flown, it won't simply disappear with its wild instincts overriding its connection to you. The process begins slowly, often indoors or in a confined outdoor space initially. The bird is on a creance, a long, light line attached to its jesses. You sit a short distance away, perhaps 10 or 20 feet, with the hooded bird on your assistant's glove or a perch. You uncover the bird's eyes, show it the lure with meat attached, call to it, and then swing the lure gently or drag it along the ground. The bird, seeing the simulated prey and the meat, flies to the lure. When it lands on the lure, you praise it. Perhaps let it take a few bites of the meat, and then carefully, patiently, man up the bird. Get it back onto your glove, exchanging the meat on the lure for a piece held in your hand. Sensory details the visual of the lure swinging, the sound of the bird's wings as it flies the short distance, the feel of the bird landing on the lure or your glove, the smell of the fresh meat on the lure. Gradually, you increase the distance the bird flies to the lure. You move to larger outdoor spaces. The creance is essential at this stage to prevent the bird from flying away. You swing the lure more vigorously, mimicking the movement of prey, making it more enticing. The bird learns to fly further, faster and more powerfully to reach the reward. For falcons, which naturally hunt by gaining altitude and stooping, lure training also involves teaching them to wait on. This is where the falcon is encouraged to fly high in circles above the falconer. Waiting. When the falconer then swings the lure below, the falcon learns to associate this signal with the opportunity for food and performs a simulated stoop down to the lure. This trains the bird for the high flights and spectacular dives used to catch prey in open country. Sensory details the visual of the bird circling high overhead, the sound of the lure whistling as you swing it through the air, the rush of wind as the falcon stoops down. The goal is to get the bird to land on the lure and accept being taken by the falconer without trying to fly off with the meat. You exchange the meat on the lure for a piece held on your glove, reinforcing that returning to you and being handled is part of the reward system. This builds trust and control. The lure replaces live prey in the initial stages of training because it provides a controlled environment to teach the hunting sequence and, most importantly, the recall. You can control when the bird flies to the lure and ensure it returns to you every time, building the habit before introducing the unpredictable variables of live hunting. A crucial and prolonged stage in medieval falconry training, following initial manning, was using a lure, a simulated piece of prey, typically leather and feathers with meat attached to teach the bird to fly to the lure for food and return reliably to the falconer from increasing distances and altitudes, thereby establishing the vital principle of recall as the foundation for hunting in partnership. This is our mainstream historical fact, highlighting the importance of lure training. A quirky tidbit about lure training involves specific, sometimes elaborate lure designs or unique swinging techniques. Some lures were shaped very realistically like specific prey animals, or made from the actual skin of prey. There were also different, sometimes complex methods of swinging the lure, twirling it overhead, dragging it on the ground, swinging it in specific patterns, each designed to attract the bird's attention and encourage a certain type of flight or stoop. Imagine a falconer performing a complex series of swings and twirls with a feathery lure to call their bird back. There's joke number one. My lure swinging technique is considered avant-garde. The bird is either incredibly impressed or utterly confused. Historians debate the primary pedagogical goal of lure training in medieval falconry. Was the main emphasis simply teaching the bird to return to the falconer for food, establishing a reliable connection for recall in the field? Or was lure training also seen as a crucial way to simulate the hunting process itself, helping to refine the bird's flying and striking technique before it was flown at live quarry? Was lure training considered equally effective as training with live quarry? Or just a necessary intermediate step to build fundamental skills? This is our open scholarly debate phrase, delving into what the lure was truly intended to achieve in the bird's overall development. Teaching with the lure is a fundamental step, establishing recall and reinforcing the bond with the falconer. It turns the bird's natural food drive into a way to ensure its return and control. Joke number two. You reward the bird on the lure. Good job. See, returning to me leads to snacks. It's basically magic. It is the crucial bridge between a manned bird and a bird ready to hunt in the field. Joke number three. You watch the bird circle high overhead, waiting for the lure. Anytime you're ready. My expensive feathered friend. My arm is getting tired. you've successfully taught your bird to return reliably to the lure, associating the feathered decoy with food and your control. This fundamental step builds recall and lays the groundwork for hunting in partnership. But the goal of medieval falconry isn't just to have a bird that flies gracefully to a fake bird, it's to have a bird that hunts live prey in the wild. Now, training progresses from the controlled practice of the lure to the unpredictable reality of the hunt, training your bird for specific animals. Birds of prey have natural hunting instincts and preferences, but training refines these instincts and directs them towards quarry desired by the falconer. Birds were trained for different types of prey. Depending on the bird's natural abilities, falcons excel in open air, hawks in cover, and the falconer's preference, status, and the type of hunting desired sport. Food. Training for flighted quarry, meaning other birds, was common, particularly for falcons. This included prey like partridge, pheasant, ducks, geese, and even high-flying birds like herons, a challenging and prestigious quarry. Training involved teaching the falcon to ring up, gain altitude in spirals above the falconer, or wait on fly high overhead, waiting for prey to be flushed. When the quarry was flushed, the falcon would perform its spectacular stoop, attempting to catch the prey in the air. For hawks, training for birds involved teaching a rapid horizontal pursuit, flying low and fast to catch prey flushed from brush or trees. Sensory details the visual of the bird gaining altitude, the sound of its wings as it flies, the sight and sound of the prey being flushed, the breathtaking visual of the falcon's stoop, the rapid focused flight of the hawk through cover. Training for ground prey was also practiced, particularly with hawks and sometimes larger falcons. Although high-flying falcons were less commonly used for small ground game in open fields compared to striking birds in the air, this included prey like rabbits and hares. Training involved teaching the bird to wait on from a perch or the fist and stoop onto ground quarry, or for hawks, to pursue prey along the ground and into cover. Introducing the bird to live prey builds on the controlled practice of lure training. You start with easier quarry. Perhaps domesticated birds like pigeons or quail initially flown in controlled settings, allowing the bird to gain confidence and experience successful captures. As the bird gains skill and confidence, you progress to wild quarry, gradually moving to more challenging prey types. This stage of training introduces the complexities of live hunting. Prey isn't a stationary lure, it's evasive. It uses the environment trees, bushes, water for cover, and other animals or factors might interfere. The bird needs to learn to pursue effectively, deal with escapes, and, crucially, understand that success in hunting live prey leads to reward from the falconer being allowed to make in, feed on a portion of the kill, or being rewarded on the lure or fist. Successful hunting in the field required not only the bird's skill, but also the falconer's strategy, knowing where to find the desired quarry, flushing the prey at the right moment, positioning themselves correctly relative to the wind and the bird's flight path. It was a coordinated effort. A quirky tidbit about prey training involves attempts to train birds for particularly unusual or difficult quarry, sometimes pushing the limits of the bird's natural abilities or the falconer's skill. There are historical accounts or legends of training large falcons to hunt challenging prey like cranes known for fighting back vigorously, or even attempting to train birds for small mammals larger than rabbits. Imagine training a falcon to take down a fox. There's joke number one. All right, today we're training for airborne badgers. Anyone seen a badger with wings? Or using strange methods to simulate prey behavior during training? Perhaps using mechanical lures or having assistants move targets in unusual ways. After mastering basic recall and control with the lure, medieval falconry training progressed to flying the bird at specific types of live quarry. Adapting techniques based on the bird's natural hunting style, falcons for high flying, hawks for low flying or ground prey, and gradually introducing the complexities of wild hunting scenarios. This is our mainstream historical fact, covering the core of prey training. Historians debate which type of hunting high-flying quarry with falcons versus ground or low-flying quarry with hawks was generally considered more difficult or prestigious among medieval falconers. Was the skill required to manage a falcon performing high stoops at fast-flying birds seen as the pinnacle of the art? Or did the challenge of a goshawk pursuing agile prey through dense woodland require an equally or even more demanding set of skills? Did specialization in hunting certain types of particularly difficult prey imply higher skill or status for the falconer? This is our open scholarly debate phrase, weighing the perceived difficulty and prestige of different hunting styles. Training for specific prey is the stage where the bird truly becomes a hunting partner, applying its natural skills in real-world scenarios under the falconer's guidance. Joke number 2. You watch your bird pursue a pheasant. Go get him. Remember everything I taught you. Mostly the part about coming back afterwards. It is the exciting, unpredictable part of the training process, moving from the practice field to the actual hunt. Joke number 3. You imagine the bird's thought process. Okay, saw a bird. Looks like dinner. Hope the human is watching and remembers to reward me. You've trained your bird for specific prey, from high-flying herons to scurrying rabbits, building on the recall established with the lure. The bird is becoming a skilled, responsive hunter, applying its natural instincts in partnership with you. But underlying all successful training and hunting in medieval falconry was a fundamental, often counterintuitive, and absolutely crucial rule. A rule that governed every aspect of the bird's life and performance, managing its weight. This might sound strange, controlling an animal's weight as a primary rule of hunting, but for a bird of prey in falconry, its weight directly impacted its willingness to hunt and its responsiveness to the falconer, particularly its motivation to return reliably for the reward food. The concept was to keep the bird at its flying weight, or hunting weight. This was a specific weight, slightly below its full wild weight, the weight at which the bird was keen to hunt for food, but not so hungry that it was anxious, weak, or desperate enough to fly away and try to hunt solely for itself. The relationship between weight and performance was finely balanced. If the bird was too heavy, meaning it had been fed too much and was essentially full, its motivation to pursue prey for food or return to the falconer for a reward lessened dramatically. It might fly listlessly, ignore quarry, or simply sit on a perch or in a tree, uninterested in hunting. Joke number 1. Is my bird ignoring the pheasant? Perhaps he's just had elevenses. Maybe I should cut back on the whole quails. If, on the other hand, the bird was kept too light, meaning it was underfed, it would become weak, anxious, easily spooked, and its hunting performance would suffer. It might lack the strength for a powerful stoop or pursuit, or become too nervous to hunt effectively. The sweet spot, the ideal flying weight, was the point where the bird was keen, focused, energetic, and highly motivated by the prospect of food and reward, but still confident and healthy. Maintaining this crucial flying weight was a constant, meticulous process for the falconer. It required daily monitoring of the bird's weight, likely using simple balances. Medieval balances weren't always perfectly precise, but experienced falconers would develop a feel for their specific bird's condition and weight through daily handling. You would lift the bird onto your gloved fist every morning, feeling its weight, observing its condition, and perhaps placing it on a simple balance to get a reading. Sensory details the feel of the bird's weight settling on your glove, noticing subtle changes from day to day. The visual of the bird's physical condition, alertness, muscle tone, the feel of operating a simple balance with the bird on one side, based on the bird's weight. Its activity level. Did it hunt yesterday? Was it successful, and the planned activities for the day training? Hunting. The falconer would adjust the bird's food intake. If the bird was slightly heavy, its food for the day might be reduced. If it was at the right weight, it would receive its ration. Feeding typically occurred after a successful hunt or a productive training session, reinforcing the positive association between effort, success, and reward. The type and amount of meat fed were carefully controlled. This constant monitoring and adjustment of weight was as fundamental a rule of medieval falconry as any legal restriction or piece of etiquette. It required dedication, patience, and a deep understanding of the individual bird's metabolism and behavior. A quirky tidbit about weight management involves specific traditional methods for estimating a bird's condition beyond just weighing. Some falconers would rely heavily on feeling the bird's keel bone, the bone running down the center of its chest and the musculature around it. By gently feeling this area, they could judge how much flesh the bird had and estimate its condition and weight, a technique that required immense experience. Imagine being able to tell if your bird was at its perfect hunting weight just by feeling its chest. There's joke number two. Feels a bit heavy around the keel. Looks like someone's been snacking on unauthorized field mice. Careful and meticulous management of a bird of prey's weight was a fundamental and absolutely critical rule in medieval falconry training and hunting, as maintaining the bird at its specific flying weight or hunting weight directly influenced its motivation to pursue prey energetically and return reliably to the falconer for reward. This is our mainstream historical fact, emphasizing weight's importance. Historians debate the precision that medieval falconers could actually achieve in measuring and managing a bird's weight using their available tools. Were the targeted flying weights consistent and quantifiable across different falconers? Or did they rely more on subjective behavioral cues and the feel of the bird's condition? Historians also debate the primary emphasis behind maintaining this specific weight. Was it predominantly focused on behavioral motivation for hunting? Or was it also understood in terms of maintaining the bird's peak metabolic health and physical performance? This is our open scholarly debate phrase, delving into the science and practice of ancient weight control. Managing the bird's weight was a constant, unseen grind, a daily routine that underpinned all the more exciting aspects of falconry. It required patience, discipline, and a deep connection to your feathered partner. Joke number 3. You adjust the scale for your bird's meal. Just enough to keep you keen, not enough to make you lazy. It's a tough balance. It was a cornerstone of building a successful hunting partnership, ensuring the bird was always ready and motivated to fly. You understand the intricacies of weight management, the crucial rule that governs your bird's hunting drive and responsiveness. But this is just one piece of a much larger commitment. Practicing medieval falconry wasn't just a hobby you picked up occasionally for a hunt. It was a demanding, nearly full-time commitment that required immense daily dedication from the person who cared for the bird, whether that was the noble themselves or their employed professional falconer. A trained bird of prey is not like a domestic pet. It remains a wild animal that requires specialized handling, specific care, and constant interaction to maintain the bond and its hunting condition. Becoming a falconer, even a beginner, meant dedicating a significant portion of your time, every single day, to the bird. The daily routine began early. You would visit the mews, the building where birds were housed when not on the fist or a perch. You'd check on your bird's health and appearance, ensuring its plumage was in good condition, its eyes were bright, and there were no signs of injury or illness. Then came the crucial step weighing the bird as we discussed to determine its exact weight and condition, which dictated its food for the day. Sensory details the smell of the mews, a mix of dry straw, bird droppings, and the faint scent of raptor, the cool morning air in the mews, the feel of the bird's weight in your hand. Feeding was a precise task, not just putting food in a bowl. Based on the bird's weight and planned activity, it would receive a carefully measured portion of fresh meat. This might be done on the glove, further reinforcing the bond and the association of the falconer with food and reward. Handling and carrying the bird throughout the day was also important, continuing the habituation started during manning, keeping the bird comfortable with human presence and the environment. Training sessions were a daily occurrence, and perhaps practicing with the lure to reinforce recall, or flying the bird in controlled settings to maintain its fitness and responsiveness. As the bird progressed, this would include actual hunting excursions, applying the training in the field. Sensory details the feel of the bird's feet on your glove as you carry it, the sound of its bells jingling, the feel of wind as it flies from your fist. Cleaning the bird and its perch was necessary for hygiene and health. Mute's droppings needed to be cleaned from the perch and sometimes from the bird's feathers. Maintaining the bird's equipment, checking jesses and leashes for wear, cleaning the hood, Ensuring bells were secure and was also part of the daily routine. Regular bathing, providing a shallow pan of water, was important for the bird's plumage and health. Crucially, a good falconer constantly watched their bird's behavior. Changes in posture, appetite, responsiveness, or activity could signal issues with health, weight, or temperament. Understanding these subtle cues was vital for maintaining the bird's peak condition. Exercising the bird, allowing it free flight sessions even when not hunting, was also necessary to maintain its physical fitness and flying prowess. Practicing medieval falconry was a highly demanding and time-consuming pursuit that required a significant daily commitment from the person responsible for the bird. Whether that was the noble themselves actively involved in the care and training, or their employed professional falconer. This commitment encompassed rigorous daily routines of feeding, based on weight, handling, training, cleaning, and closely observing the bird's health and behavior. This is our mainstream historical fact, outlining the demanding nature of the role. The time commitment involved meant that falconry was far from a casual hobby. For a noble who was actively involved, it could take up a significant portion of their day, requiring them to be present and hands-on with their bird. This level of dedication contributed to the prestige of the sport. It was a noble pursuit that demanded more than just wealth. It demanded personal investment of time and effort. A quirky tidbit about the daily life involves specific methods for cleaning the bird or maintaining its plumage. Some historical texts mention specific dusting powders or even using smoke from certain herbs or wood fires to help keep the bird's feathers clean and free of parasites. Imagine carefully holding your bird near a smoking brazier as part of its grooming routine. There's joke number 1, time for your smoky sage treatment. Little one, it's good for your feathers. And it makes you smell faintly like a walking incense stick. Historians debate the level of direct personal involvement of medieval nobility in the daily care and training of their birds of prey. While depictions often show nobles with birds on their fists, how common was it for lords and ladies to perform the demanding tasks of daily feeding, cleaning, and basic training themselves? Or were these often primarily delegated entirely to their professional falconers, with the noble participating only in the actual hunting? This is our open scholarly debate phrase, questioning how hands-on the average noble falconer truly was. The life of a medieval falconer, whether noble or professional, was one of dedication to their bird. It was a constant routine of care, training, and observation that built the crucial bond and underpinned the noble art. Joke number 2. You finish cleaning the perch. Glamorous, noble pursuit. Indeed. It wasn't just a sport, it was a relationship requiring daily commitment. Joke number 3. You look at your bird ready for flight. All right, all those hours of cleaning mute and weighing food. It was for this moment, mostly. The life of a medieval falconer, whether noble or professional, was one of constant dedication to their bird. Daily feeding, handling, training, and care, all aimed at maintaining that vital hunting partnership and keeping the bird at its peak. But this noble pursuit didn't exist outside the law. Medieval society, with its strict hierarchies and emphasis on property and privilege, had surprisingly complex legal rules governing the practice of falconry. Because falconry was so strongly associated with nobility and birds of prey, were incredibly valuable commodities. Some rare birds were worth more than a warhorse or a servant. The art was subject to various laws and regulations that dictated who could practice it, how they could acquire birds, and where they could hunt. Laws dictated who was allowed to own and fly specific types of birds, directly tying into the social hierarchy we discussed. As the saying from the Book of St. Albans went, each rank had its bird, from emperor down to the lowest ranks of gentry. These weren't just social norms. In many regions, these were codified expectations, sometimes even laws, though strict legal enforcement varied. Owning a gerfalcon might be legally reserved for kings, while a sparrowhawk was deemed suitable for a gentleman. There were strict regulations on acquiring birds from the wild. Taking birds of certain species, especially highly prized ones like peregrines or gerfalcons, might be restricted to specific individuals or require royal permission. Nesting sites on noble lands could be protected, with severe penalties for anyone caught taking birds' eyasses without authorization. Trapping adult birds' haggards was also subject to rules. These laws aimed to control the supply of valuable birds and maintain the exclusivity of the sport. Trained birds themselves were considered valuable property, and laws protected them fiercely. Stealing a trained bird of prey was a serious offense, often punished more severely than stealing other forms of property, reflecting the bird's monetary value, the time invested in its training, and its symbolic importance to the owner's status. Harming or killing another person's trained bird, even accidentally in some cases, could also lead to significant penalties or legal disputes. Sensory details the feel of a legal document or charter imagined, the visual of officials or gamekeepers monitoring hunting lands, the sound of a legal pronouncement or judgment imagined, the tension of a potential legal conflict. Hunting rights were also central to medieval law, and falconry was intricately tied into this. Land ownership often came with specific hunting rights, dictating what animals you could hunt and where. Noble lands, in particular, were often protected, with strict laws against poaching. Taking quarry the hunted animal on land where you did not have rights was illegal. This led to one of the most common legal complexities for a falconer trespassing for retrieval. During a hunt, if your bird pursued quarry onto land where you did not have hunting rights, there were specific rules regarding retrieving your valuable bird. You often had the legal right to follow your bird onto the land to recover it, but not necessarily to claim the quarry it had caught. There were often protocols you had to follow, perhaps leaving your weapons, announcing yourself to the landowner or their gamekeeper, or even paying a small fee. Ignoring these rules or being caught trespassing with intent to hunt could lead to fines, confiscation of your bird, or worse. Imagine the frustration of your prized falcon catching a pheasant on your neighbor's land you aren't allowed to hunt on, and having to negotiate just to get your bird back. Officials like gamekeepers were employed by landowners and the crown to enforce these hunting laws and protect against poaching and unauthorized access. Their job was to ensure that hunting, including falconry, was conducted according to the established rules and within the boundaries of legal rights. The penalties for breaking falconry laws could be severe, reflecting the high value placed on the sport and the birds. Fines, imprisonment, or even more draconian punishments were possible depending on the severity of the offense and the value of the bird or quarry involved. Medieval falconry was governed by complex laws and regulations that were crucial for its practice. These laws dictated who could legally own and fly specific types of birds tied to social hierarchy, restricted the taking of wild birds, especially prized species, protected trained birds as valuable property with severe penalties for theft or harm, and regulated hunting rights and specific rules regarding trespassing onto land to retrieve a bird or quarry. This is our mainstream historical fact, outlining the legal framework. A quirky tidbit about falconry laws involves specific, unusual regulations or strange legal disputes recorded. Some laws might have specified restrictions on flying certain birds near specific places like markets or churches to avoid disruption. There are historical records of legal disputes between nobles over ownership of a bird, or arguments over which landowner had the right to a quarry caught by a bird that crossed a boundary. Imagine a legal case going to court over a stolen sparrowhawk. There's joke number one. The case of the purloined peregrine versus Sir Reginald, a gripping courtroom drama for falconers. Historians debate the effectiveness and practical enforcement of medieval falconry laws and regulations across different regions and social strata. Were these laws consistently applied to everyone, or were high-ranking nobles often able to disregard rules that applied to those below them? Historians also debate the primary purpose of these laws. Were they primarily aimed at protecting noble privilege and the exclusivity of the sport? Or did they also serve a genuine purpose in managing wild bird populations and preventing overhunting? Reflecting an early form of wildlife management, this is our open scholarly debate phrase, exploring the true impact and intention behind these complex legal rules. The laws of falconry added a layer of legal complexity to the sport, reflecting the bird's value and the importance of noble privilege. Joke number two. You study a scroll detailing hunting laws. So many rules, it's like medieval bureaucracy with feathers. Navigating these regulations was part of being a medieval falconer, ensuring your noble pursuit didn't land you in legal trouble. Joke number 3. You retrieve your bird near a no hunting sign. Okay, got the bird back. Pretend we didn't see that rabbit. Beyond the personal dedication to your bird, the rigorous training, and the strict legal framework that governed the sport, medieval falconry was also, for the nobility, a highly social activity. Riding out for a hunt with friends, family, and peers was a common and enjoyable pastime, an opportunity to socialize, discuss matters of court or estate, and display skill in fine birds. These social hunts weren't free-for-alls, they came with their own set of unwritten, complex rules field etiquette. Imagine riding out with a party of nobles and their falconers, horses moving through the fields, the air filled with the jingling of bells from dozens of birds carried on gloved fists, lively conversation flowing. But beneath the convivial atmosphere, there was a careful awareness of social protocols, particularly when it came to the actual hunting. Medieval falconry hunts were often significant social occasions for the nobility and gentry, serving as opportunities for social interaction and display, and were governed by complex, unwritten rules of etiquette and protocol regarding whose turn it was to fly a bird, how to behave while others were hunting, and respectful interactions between fellow falconers. This is our mainstream historical fact, highlighting the social context and rules. Adhering to field etiquette was essential for maintaining harmonious relationships among peers and showing respect for others, their valuable birds, and the art of falconry itself. Breaking these unwritten rules, whether intentionally or through ignorance, could lead to social disapproval, awkwardness, or even disputes. One key aspect of field etiquette involved the hierarchy of flying. On a social hunt with multiple nobles, the order in which birds were flown was often determined by social rank, reflecting the broader hierarchy of birds we discussed earlier. The highest-ranking noble present might have the privilege of flying their bird first at suitable quarry, followed by the next in rank, and so on. This required knowing your place and waiting your turn, even if your bird was eager and quarry presented itself. Crucially, there were rules about giving way and avoiding interference. If another falconer's bird was already in pursuit of quarry, it was essential not to fly your own bird at the same animal, or to do anything like shouting loudly or riding carelessly that might distract their bird or interfere with their hunt. It was about respecting another's opportunity and the work they had put into training their bird. Behavior while another's bird was flying was also important. When a bird was cast off the fist and was pursuing quarry, others in the hunting party were expected to remain relatively quiet and still, not making sudden movements that could startle the prey or distract the hunting bird. It was a moment of focused attention on the bird's performance. Approaching another falconer who had a bird on their fist required a certain protocol. You might approach slowly, offer a respectful greeting, and be mindful of not getting too close, especially if your own bird was also unhooded, to avoid potential aggression between the birds. Rules regarding shared quarry could be particularly important to avoid disputes. If two birds from the same party happened to pursue the same animal, there might be unwritten rules about whose bird had priority, perhaps the one that struck it first, or the one belonging to the higher-ranking noble. Resolving such situations gracefully was part of good field etiquette. Acknowledging a successful flight or capture by another's bird was also expected. Compliments on the bird's performance or the falconer's skill were common, sharing in the success of the hunt as a social group. Imagine a polite round of applause for a particularly impressive stoop by the Earl's peregrine. Properly handling your own bird while others were flying or interacting was also key. Keeping your bird hooded when not its turn to fly, ensuring it wasn't restive or noisy, showed control and respect for the other's pursuit. These rules, though unwritten, were learned and reinforced through social interaction and the desire to fit in and be respected within the noble falconry community. A quirky tidbit about field etiquette might involve specific, unusual rituals related to the capture of certain prey, or strange customs observed during a hunt. For instance, were there specific ways to retrieve a heron caught by a falcon? involving a particular ceremony or division of parts that everyone on the hunt would adhere to, or a specific call or signal used to indicate your bird was ready to fly? Imagine a strange rule like, upon catching a rabbit, you must present it to the lowest ranking member of the party with a flourish. There's joke number one. I believe, according to the ancient customs of the field, the fallen pheasant now belongs to whoever complained the loudest about the wind. Historians debate the consistency and rigidity of medieval falconry field etiquette across different noble courts, regions, and time periods. Were these unwritten rules largely consistent across Europe, forming a universal code of conduct for noble falconers? Or did they vary significantly depending on the local customs of a particular court? The personality of the host, or the specific group of people hunting together. Historians also question how strictly these unwritten rules were followed and enforced. Were breaches met with serious social disapproval? Or were minor missteps often overlooked among friends? This is our open scholarly debate phrase, understanding just how uniform and binding these social rules truly were. Field etiquette added a crucial layer of social protocol to medieval falconry hunts, transforming them from simple hunting excursions into complex social events. Joke number two. You navigate a group of mounted nobles, keeping your bird hooded. Just trying to avoid accidentally challenging the baron to a whose bird can sit quietest competition. It made the act of falconry not just a display of skill with a bird, but also a performance of social grace and understanding within the noble world. Joke number three. You watch someone's bird fly off course. Oh dear, looks like someone's bird missed the memo on staying within the acceptable social boundaries of the hunt. Beyond the social etiquette of the field, the rules about hierarchy, and the careful dance of interaction among noble falconers, the core of the medieval falconry hunt was, of course, the pursuit and capture of quarry. But the experience and the technique of the hunt varied significantly depending on the type of animal being pursued, requiring different skills from both the bird and the falconer. As we discussed earlier, different birds of prey were naturally suited to different types of prey and hunting environments. Falcons, with their pointed wings and speed, excelled in open air and at hunting high-flying birds. Hawks, with their rounded wings and agility, were better suited for hunting in wooded or brushy areas and pursuing prey close to the ground. The type of quarry dictated which bird you flew and the specific techniques employed. Hunting high-flying birds was often considered particularly prestigious, a dramatic spectacle of aerial skill. This included quarry like herons, cranes, ducks, and geese. You would typically find and flush the prey, often near water for birds like herons or ducks. As the quarry attempted to escape by gaining altitude, the falconer would cast off a high-flying falcon like a peregrine or gerfalcon. The falcon would immediately begin to ring up, circling higher and higher in wide spirals above the quarry, aiming to gain a superior altitude. This could lead to breathtaking aerial duels between the quarry trying to fly ever higher to escape the stoop, and the falcon ringing up above it. Once the falcon was at a sufficient height, it would perform its legendary stoop, folding its wings and diving at incredible speed towards the quarry below, attempting to strike it in midair. Sensory details the visual of the quarry bird spiraling upwards, the falcon ringing up above it, the breathtaking sight and sound of the falcon's rapid stoop through the air, perhaps the sound of the prey's alarm calls. Hunting low-flying or ground prey required different tactics, often involving hawks like the goshawk or sparrowhawk. This included prey like partridge, pheasant, quail, rabbits, and hares. The hunt would often take place in fields, meadows, or woodlands. The quarry would be flushed from cover, and the hawk would immediately launch into a rapid horizontal pursuit, following the prey close to the ground or through trees and brush, relying on its agility and speed to overtake it. For ground prey, like rabbits, a falcon might be cast off from the fist, or a low perch to stoop directly onto the animal. Sensory details the sound of the prey being flushed from cover, the rapid flapping and movement of the hawk through brush, the visual of the chase along the ground, the sound of the bird striking the quarry. Hunting waterfowl like ducks often involved techniques adapted for water. requiring the bird to strike the duck in the air or force it down onto the water, with the falconer or helpers then retrieving the quarry. Hunting large, powerful birds like cranes presented a significant challenge, as they could fight back aggressively. The type of quarry pursued also significantly influenced the excitement and prestige of the hunt. Hunting a high-flying heron with a peregrine, culminating in a dramatic stoop, was considered a peak achievement in falconry, requiring immense skill from both the falcon and the falconer. Hunting fast. Agile woodland birds like pheasants with a goshawk also required great skill. Hunting larger prey, like deer or wolves, though less common with standard falcons, hawk yet more with eagles, was also seen as highly prestigious due to the size and difficulty of the quarry. Medieval falconry involved specialized techniques and strategies adapted to hunting different types of quarry, requiring different skills from the bird and the falconer. Notable distinctions included training high-flying falcons like peregrines for dramatic stoops on birds gaining altitude like herons, and training hawks like goshawks for rapid pursuit of low-flying birds or ground prey in varied environments. This is our mainstream historical fact, detailing the variation based on prey. A quirky tidbit about hunting specific prey involves particularly unusual or difficult quarries sometimes mentioned in historical accounts. Some texts discuss the challenge of hunting rooks or crows, which are intelligent and often mob birds of prey, making their capture difficult. Hunting kites, a type of raptor, was also sometimes attempted, pitting bird of prey against bird of prey. Imagine training your bird to hunt another bird of prey. There's joke number one. Today's target, the pigeon. Tomorrow's target, his slightly larger, angrier cousin who stole my lunch. Historians debate which type of hunting was generally considered the most challenging or prestigious in medieval European falconry. Was the sheer skill and aerial spectacle of hunting high-flying birds like herons or cranes, with falcons the undisputed pinnacle of the art? Or did the technical difficulty of training and managing a goshawk for fast, agile hunting in dense woodland present an equally or even more demanding test of a falconer's skill? This is our open scholarly debate phrase, evaluating the hierarchy of difficulty and prestige among different hunting styles and quarry types. Hunting different prey types added immense variety and excitement to medieval falconry, requiring the falconer to understand the habits of the quarry and match the bird's abilities to the challenge. Joke number two. You watch your hawk disappear into the brush after a rabbit. All right, see you in a bit. Hope he remembers his training and doesn't just eat the rabbit right there. It was the application of all the training, culminating in the thrill of the chase and, hopefully, a successful capture. Joke number three. You imagine a bird complaining about the target. A pheasant. Again. Can't we chase something with a little more dramatic flair? Like a dragon. You've experienced the excitement of the hunt, from the dramatic stoop of a falcon on a heron to the agile pursuit of a hawk through the woods. You've seen how the type of prey changes the technique and the thrill. But underlying all these moments of action and skill is the less glamorous, but absolutely essential aspect of caring for the bird's health and well-being. Keeping a valuable bird of prey in top condition was crucial for successful falconry and required constant, dedicated care, even involving specific medical knowledge. Birds of prey, like any animal, can get sick or injured. Illness, parasites, injuries from hunting striking prey, collisions, or accidents in the mews could all sideline or even kill a valuable bird. A sick or injured bird cannot hunt effectively, and a wise falconer knew that maintaining the bird's health was just as important as managing its weight or practicing with the lure. Daily care involved several key duties. We already discussed the meticulous feeding based on weight and activity level, using carefully prepared, fresh meat, free from bones that could cause injury or parasites. Hygiene was also vital. This included not only keeping the mews and perches clean of droppings mute, but also cleaning the bird itself, ensuring its feathers and feet were clean. Birds preen naturally, but a falconer would also assist in keeping the plumage clean and in good condition. Proper care of the bird's feet and talons was crucial, as they bore the bird's weight on the perch and were essential for hunting. Falconers would check the bird's feet for sores bumblefoot, caused by improper perching, and manage the length and sharpness of their talons, and beak through a process called coping, trimming them with a sharp tool like a knife or specialized shears. Ensuring the jesses fit correctly and weren't causing rubs or irritation was also important. Sensory details the smell of a clean mews, distinct from a dirty one, the feel of the bird's feet as you examine them, the visual of sharp talons and beak, the sound of carefully trimming a talon or beak. Monitoring the bird's health required close observation. A good falconer paid attention to subtle changes in the bird's behavior lethargy, increased aggression or nervousness, appearance dull eyes, ruffled feathers, appetite, and the consistency and color of its mutes droppings. All were indicators of health. Early detection of illness or injury was key. As birds of prey can deteriorate quickly, medieval falconers possessed a body of knowledge regarding common ailments. Birds might suffer, such as respiratory issues, digestive problems, external parasites lice, mites, and internal parasites worms. They also knew how to deal with injuries like cuts, bruises, and broken bones. Basic treatments and remedies were available. This might include using herbal remedies, administering purgative to deal with digestive issues, or applying salves and bandages to wounds. For broken bones, simple splinting techniques were used, similar to human medicine. One particularly skilled technique was imping, repairing a broken or damaged feather by grafting a new section onto it, often using a piece from a shed feather or a bird that had died. This was a delicate procedure that allowed a bird with broken flight or tail feathers to be fit for flying again more quickly than waiting for a natural molt. Imagine carefully joining two pieces of feather together with a tiny pin. Sensory details the feel of manipulating delicate feathers, the visual of a neatly impinged feather. The falconer's responsibility for the bird's health was immense. A sick or injured bird couldn't hunt, representing a loss of the bird's potential and the falconer's investment of time and resources. It also meant risking the bird's life. Skill in basic bird medicine and diligent daily care were vital parts of being a complete falconer. Maintaining the health and physical condition of valuable birds of prey was a critical daily responsibility in medieval falconry, encompassing meticulous feeding based on weight, rigorous hygiene for the bird and its housing mews, dedicated plumage care including the skilled practice of imping for feather repair, careful management of feet and talons coping, and monitoring health to treat common ailments or injuries with available remedies. This is our mainstream historical fact, detailing the scope of bird care. A quirky tidbit about bird health involves specific, unusual, or strange remedies found in medieval falconry treatises. Some texts mention using rather bizarre ingredients or methods for treating ailments, reflecting the medical knowledge or lack thereof of the time. This could include using specific animal parts, strange mixtures of herbs and other substances, or even applying treatments based on astrological timing. Imagine reading a recipe for a bird's cough syrup involving crushed pearls or powdered unicorn horn. Unlikely for efficacy, but perhaps believed. There's joke number 1. Yes, your bird has a cough. The treatment: a tincture of nightshade, bat wings, and sing it a sad song. It's in the book. It's in. Historians debate the effectiveness and sophistication of medieval falconry medical practices. While they clearly had practical knowledge of healing wounds and dealing with common issues, how effective were their remedies for more complex internal ailments or diseases compared to modern veterinary medicine? Historians also question the depth of their understanding of bird physiology and specific health requirements beyond the practical observations related to hunting performance. This is our open scholarly debate phrase, assessing the scientific basis or lack thereof of ancient bird medicine. Caring for the bird's health was a constant grind, a dedication that underpinned the entire art. It required patience, knowledge, and the ability to act as the bird's doctor, nurse, and groomer. Joke number 2. You finish coping a talon. There, I am perfectly shaped for gently gripping my glove. Mostly. It was a less visible part of falconry than the dramatic hunt. But without it, The hunt simply wouldn't happen. Joke number 3. You listen to your bird's breathing. Sounds good. Not wheezing like old Bartholomew's bird. He needed more singing lullabies, I think. You've journeyed through the surprisingly complex world of medieval falconry for beginners. You've met the different birds, from the kingly gerfalcon to the gentleman's sparrowhawk, and learned how your place in society dictated which one you might fly. You've explored the essential gear, from the protective glove to the calming hood and the vital training lure. You've seen how birds were acquired from the wild, the patience required for manning, and the skill needed for teaching them to return and hunt specific prey, all while managing their crucial weight. You've delved into the legal framework, the social etiquette of the hunt, and the constant, essential task of keeping a valuable bird healthy. Now, let's reflect on the overall significance of this complex art, its place in noble life and medieval society. Medieval falconry was far more than just a sport or a practical way to hunt for food. Although it was both of those things, it was deeply woven into the fabric of noble identity, culture, and social structure. For the nobility and gentry, it was a defining pursuit, a skill learned from a young age, a pastime enjoyed throughout life, and a powerful way to display one's status, wealth, and mastery over nature. Its role in displaying status and wealth cannot be overstated. Owning and maintaining a collection of well-trained birds, especially rare or prestigious species, required significant financial resources and dedicated staff professional falconers. The elaborate gear was often expensive and sometimes highly decorated. The very ability to spend time on training and hunting, rather than manual labor, was a sign of leisure and wealth. Carrying a valuable bird on your fist in public, or riding out with a hunting party, was a highly visible statement of your position in society. It was a portable piece of public relations, a feathered badge of honor. Falconry also played a role in education and training for young nobles. Boys and girls of noble birth would often learn the basics of falconry as part of their upbringing. It taught them patience essential for manning and training, discipline, observation skills, a deep understanding of animal behavior in the natural world, and practical skills like horsemanship for hunting on horseback and handling. It was seen as a way to instill noble virtues and prepare them for managing their own estates and people later in life, requiring responsibility and consistent effort. The social aspect of falconry, through organized hunts, was also very important. Riding out together provided opportunities for social interaction, strengthening bonds between families and peers, discussing political matters, arranging marriages, and simply enjoying shared leisure time in the countryside. The complex etiquette of the field ensured these gatherings, while sometimes competitive in skill, generally adhered to established social norms and hierarchy. Falconry was also a way to connect with nature and the land. Hunting required knowledge of the landscape, the seasons, the habits of wild game, and the environment. It kept nobles engaged with the natural world beyond the confines of castles and courts. Medieval falconry was a highly significant and multifaceted aspect of noble life and society in medieval Europe, serving as a crucial means for displaying status and wealth through the ownership and flying of prestigious birds, as an important part of the education and training of young nobility, as a central social activity through organized hunts with complex etiquette, and as a way to engage with and demonstrate mastery over the natural world. This is our mainstream historical fact, summarizing its broad importance. While the practical need for hunting declined for nobles over time as agriculture and trade became more dominant sources of wealth and food, the symbolic and social importance of falconry endured for centuries, becoming a tradition passed down through generations. A quirky tidbit about falconry's legacy involves specific, unusual instances of the art persisting in later periods or being adapted in strange ways. Even after its peak, falconry continued to be practiced, sometimes in highly specialized forms or in specific regions where the tradition remained strong. There are anecdotes of unusual birds being flown, or peculiar variations in technique developing in isolated pockets. Imagine seeing someone attempting a medieval-style falconry hunt in a period where firearms were becoming common. a deliberate adherence to an old tradition. There's joke number one. Is that a musket? Good sir. How quaint I prefer to hunt with a highly trained bird. More dramatic? Historians debate the primary reason for falconry's enduring social significance for centuries beyond its peak as a primary hunting method. Was it primarily due to its deeply ingrained association with noble status and tradition, becoming a powerful symbol even as its practical utility lessened? Or did the inherent skill, the bond with the bird, and the enjoyment of the hunt itself ensure its continuation as a valued pastime regardless of its evolving social meaning? Scholars debate the primary drivers for the long-term continuation of falconry as a noble pursuit beyond its peak practical hunting utility, questioning the relative influence of status symbolism versus the intrinsic appeal of the art itself. The complex rules, the dedication required, the terminology, the hierarchy. All these aspects we've explored contributed to making medieval falconry a rich and fascinating art form. It was a world of feathers, leather, metal bells, and intricate social codes, where the bond between human and bird was central to a defining noble pursuit. Joke number two. You look at your hand, imagining the weight of a bird. All that complexity, just to catch dinner, and look important doing it. Understanding the rules and practices of medieval falconry offers a unique window into the values, priorities, and social structures of the time. It shows us how seriously nobles took their leisure activities, how status was visually communicated, and the deep connection they sought with the natural world through a trained hunting partner. Joke number three. You imagine explaining medieval falconry today? Yeah, it's like having a very high-maintenance, very expensive feathered hunting drone, but you have to feed it meat personally. And now, as our journey through the surprisingly complex rules of medieval falconry comes to a close, you can let the images of nobles on horseback, the jingling bells, the soaring birds, and the intricacies of training begin to fade. The scents of the medieval countryside are softening. The sounds of the hunt are quieting. You can let go of the rules, the hierarchy, the dedication to the bird. All the history, the details, the peculiar etiquette are settling down for the night. They are safe now, remembered, a fascinating glimpse into a world of feathered partners and noble pursuits. Peace, quiet. The fields are still. The birds are at rest. Breathing easy, letting go, drifting. Sweet dreams.